Right, well, it's been a couple of weeks since we finished our epic adventure on our From Wainwright's Coast to Coast. Obviously at this point, if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link up here and I'd strongly recommend that you watch that before you watch this video, because like everybody, we've obviously done the video. Like I said, come back, and before I've emptied my bag, what I really want to do with this video really is do a bit of a bag dump here, just to sort of go through all of the things that I took, recommend things that you know, if I was to do it again, sort of things that I've learned really. Not so much a tip video, but especially, you know, talking more about kit, because, you know, everyone's adventure is different. People have different requirements, but for me, I just want to go through everything that I took, what I would take again if I was to do it again, probably what I wouldn't take, and hopefully give as much sort of advice and help to you guys if you're planning on doing the coast to coast yourself. So yeah, what I'll probably do, get the bag out and just, like I said, run through absolutely everything. So firstly, and by no means least, just because they're in the way, hiking poles. So for me, honestly, hiking poles to some people are just hiking poles, but weight pack is, you know, it's so important to have the lightest pack possible, because I don't really feel that I took that into serious consideration enough. Like, I knew that, but yeah, pack is so important. So in terms of sticks, carbon fibre. I know aluminium's a lot cheaper, and obviously again, if that's your budget, that's absolutely fine. But I got these carbon fibre crag hopper ones. You don't have to get the same ones, because like I said, hiking poles are hiking poles. You ain't doing this walk without them, to be truthful. So yeah, get yourself some really nice hiking poles. I think these cost me about 60 or 70 pounds. Like I said, just retractable. And the best thing about us as well is that these were actually used to hold up our tent. But they've got a nice Duplan handle for the grip. It was really nice to mould it around your hand, especially on those inclines. Adjustable strap, so you can really get around there if you need to. But yeah, these were an absolute godsend, and my honest opinion in terms of the coast to coast and hiking poles is you ain't doing this walk without them. Let me tell you, no matter how fit you are, these were an absolute godsend. So yeah, just get yourself some good hiking poles, go into a shop, try them out, find what works for you. But yeah, these took an absolute battering, so I'll get rid of them. Next, and by no means least, is this front bag. To be honest, this was a bit of a last minute purchase from me. Yeah, it's more of a fell running sort of pouch, to be honest, but this was probably the most important item that I actually took with me. Honestly, it was absolutely amazing. So as you've probably seen in the video, if you have seen the video, these just clip onto the front of your bag. They're absolutely incredible, these little sort of carabiner clips, if you like. And yeah, these obviously wrap around the side, and it was just, honestly, it was amazing. So yeah, I think these are about 40 quid. If I was to do the course, in fact, I wouldn't actually go on any other fell walk again without this. This was amazing. So yeah, just going to talk obviously what was actually inside it as well. So in the back of this, there's like a lovely little mesh lining pouch. It's worth noting at this point, this isn't actually a waterproof bag. So if it did, you know, if the heavens did open, I'd probably recommend either nothing that was, you know, important to go inside it, or put this in your pouch if you needed to. But yeah, there's an open mesh at the back, and in there I kept a laminated copy of our itinerary. Like I've always said, it was a loose itinerary, but it just gave us a plan on where we needed to be. So that was our itinerary. And then also in the back, I kept a buff. Buffs, again, you don't have to take them, to be honest. I did use this. I used it on the cold mornings to wrap around my neck, and obviously, I mean, most of the time our weather, if you've seen the video, was just ridiculously hot. But like I said, you can do so much with a buff. We tended to, you know, to wrap it round, double it over, put it on our wrist, use it as a bit of a sweatband. Yeah, they were a bit of everything, multi-purpose. Buff, really good, and the fact that I kept it in the back of the pouch is because it was just easily accessible as well. So yeah, definitely recommend a buff if you haven't got one. And that was it for terms of the back. So moving on to the front, you've got these really nice zips, and like I said, this probably got hammered by me every single sort of day, to be honest. And then in the back as well, I'll see if I can get a bit of a close-up. There's two pockets in the back. So there's two sort of little pockets at the back, and in the one on the left, I carried my compass. To be honest, I didn't use this as much as I thought I would, but I would always recommend that you take a compass with you, because yeah, basically you can't rely on GPS all the time. Now, we didn't have a GPS. We pre-downloaded the route onto our phone. So between the two of us, we had the phone and we had a map. But yeah, if you don't know how to use a map and compass, I'd definitely familiarise yourself with the map and compass, because although we didn't necessarily use this as often as we thought we was going to, I would definitely never ever recommend anyone going on a hike, especially of this magnitude, without a compass. So yeah, that was in the pouch. And that was it in that pouch, was it? Nope, sorry, and then a grid reference as well, just because if we ever needed to have a little, I mean, I can find a grid reference with the map, but yeah, took that as well. Didn't really use that often. The other thing that I also had in this pocket going throughout the whole walk was my insulin pump. So in terms of clothes, which I'll get onto a little bit later, I didn't have pockets some days, so I just usually use like this front pocket for my insulin pump, which, you know, for me personally is important. In the right hand side I kept my phone, and I also kept this knife, which I'll go on to in a minute. And then I also kept in the back some hypo sweets. So obviously I have diabetes, so yeah, using these were pretty important, and I needed them at hand because obviously if I was having low sugar or a low episode of hypoglycemia, I needed them. So yeah, they were important. So the knife, this was, honestly, I used it every single day. It's a tiny pocket knife, but this was made by a very good friend of mine. I don't know if it wants to be shouted all over the internet, but this was honestly amazing. We used it for cutting bits of everything. Yeah, I can't tell you how often we use this. Perfect little pocket knife. Had a lovely little leather sheath. We use it for cutting physio tape, just little bits of everything, plasters, whatever it were. That was always kept there. I'd recommend some form of pen knife or small knife, because you never know when you're on the coast to coast. So just, yeah, bear that in mind. And then in the main pocket itself, I had, ignore the receipt, like I said, I definitely haven't even opened this bag, but we had the A to Z coast to coast map. Now, as far as I'm aware, you can't actually buy these anymore, but rather than taking loads of OS maps, it basically just has the route in it. And like I said, if you've seen the video, we used it for, well, every single day, multitude of times. It has the route, we use it for navigation, we use it for absolutely everything, planning the route, absolute godsend. If you are doing the coast to coast, definitely get one of these and don't just rely on GPS, because yeah, this was amazing. And then the other things that I don't know if I have mentioned or I have mentioned, I'm not sure. The other thing that I kept in this front bag was the GoPro, which obviously I'm filming on now. So that was just in my pocket so that I could unzip it, take it out, film on it whenever I needed to. So yeah, the GoPro, obviously I'm filming on that now, was in here. And then my phone as well, which I don't know if I mentioned, but I had my phone in there. And that was pretty much it for essentials, because like you said, that was on your chest, so there's not really anything else that you needed, to carry in there. And you didn't want to be too front heavy either. But if I was to do any walk again, get yourself one of these. These were absolutely incredible. Really recommend this. So moving on to the bag itself, before I start opening the contents, the bag itself was an Osprey Exos 48. For me, 48 litre is more than enough. You can get 50s, you can get 60s, and I think you can even get 70s, 75s. But yeah, I'm not the biggest of blokes. I was conscious that I didn't want to take so much in terms of pack weight. But this was the Osprey Exos 48. Quite an expensive bag, make no bones about it. But do you know what? When you're walking that distance and carrying the weight that you are, getting a bag that suits you and your frame and your size, and honestly, is so important. And I cannot stress that enough. Yeah, go into a shop, don't buy it online. If you're doing a couple of day hikes, fine. Do not do a walk like this if you're just randomly picking a bag up off the shelf. Make sure that the frame fits you. Like I said, it's not a review video as such, but like I said, the frame itself, there's an inch between the back of the bag and the actual airframe, so you can still get airflow through. It had a nice solid frame. The shoulders were ridiculously padded, but yeah, honestly, this was just an absolute godsend. The other thing as well that I had on my shoulders was just like a GoPro clamp. To be honest, I didn't use that as much as I thought I was going to be honest, just to get like B-roll and stuff on the walk. Matty used his quite a lot, to be fair, but I just found because it was in my front bag that I just used it. What I actually did is I kept turning it round and then hanging my hat off it. But yeah, like I said, I just found ways of doing it. But yeah, a really good bag. Like I said, if you've got the money and you're doing the coast to coast, go into a shop, get a bag that fits you. But this was an absolute godsend. Would not do it without it. Definitely recommend this bag. So in terms of opening it up, there's a huge pocket on the front. Like I said, it's not a review, but there's a huge pocket on the front, elasticated as well. And then in here, all I kept in there was a sit pad. So I had a sit pad. Obviously most sit pads don't come with a burn, but you can see how it's used, well used. To be honest, I thought I was going to use this a lot more than I did, if I'm being truthful. So a lot of the time I just thought, if it's wet or it's raining, you can sit on it. If you go for a wild swim, you can put your feet on it. But obviously I took my Crocs, which I'll get onto in a short while. But yeah, honestly, I don't know if, they are very lightweight, they are ultra lightweight, but would I take that again? given the weather that we had, probably not, but you can't always predict the weather. So yeah, for how much light they are, I'd probably recommend taking one. But yeah, I kept that in the front just because then if I needed it, I could always just take it out and get it. Cap, so that started in there. Obviously I didn't want to take my rucksack off every time I needed my hat, so eventually I was either wearing it or I was clipping it to the front of my sort of shoulder straps, or I would sort of ask Matty, obviously he was on the walk as well, if he could get it for me. But yeah, definitely recommend wearing a hat. One of the reasons on the coast to coast is you start on the west and finish at the east is because the sun's always behind you for the majority of the day. So although it's not very cool, I was often wearing it like backwards to stop the sun burning the back of my neck. And yeah, to be fair, at times that was a godsend. So I kept my hat in there as well. And then it's fact it's still here. So we had lots of rubbish because like I said, what we was doing as well on the coast to coast, because like I said, we are very conscious around the outdoor world and everything about it, is we were picking up a lot of rubbish. So we had like a co-op bag, biodegradable bag that we'd keep in the front of here, and every time we saw rubbish on the fells, not ours, obviously other people's, we're picking it up, putting it in here, and then when we got to like a village or a hamlet, we'd empty it into a bin. And then finally, I think that's, yeah, the last thing is this juice number 3. So this juice number 3 trowel, obvious reasons, you don't need me to go into loads of detail around that. However, fortunately, we never used it. So yeah, would I always recommend one? Absolutely, because you never know and you do not want to get caught out. But yeah, we never had to use it, which was fortunate. So yeah, in terms of the toilet situation, I'm not going to lie. So what we found we were doing is every time we got into a hamlet, into a village or a pub or a like a B&B, we'd kind of always go to the toilet there. We'd always try because, like you said, you know, we didn't really want to use that in terms of having a wild one, let's say. So yeah, toilet situation, we never used it, which was absolutely brilliant. Nothing more I need to say about it, to be honest. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously still rubbish in the bottom of there, but as you can see, nice big pocket, and that was that. So the 2 side pockets, obvious reasons. So again, another feature of this bag is that you've got a side pocket at the top there, and then the other one is this, which is an amazing feature. So you can actually get access to whatever's in this pocket from the side. So when it was on your back, you could just pull it from this. Honestly, amazing. But yeah, in the side, we basically just had 2 1-litre water bottles. Now, again, don't want to teach you how to suck eggs. Water was so important on the whole walk for both of us, and especially through the weather as well. We needed access to them. So yeah, one in that side, and then just because, can't even get to it now after saying that, just because had another one as well. 2 1-litre waters. The water situation, so we filtered water, we took a filter which I'll get onto shortly. We drank as often as we could, whether we got to, like I said, hamlets, villages, pubs, we'd always ask them to fill them as well. And then when we got to rivers, streams, lakes, reservoirs, whatever it may be, we used a filter to fill them up. Most of the meals were hydrated, so we didn't need water for meals, but we drank a lot of coffee and obviously kept hydrated through water. 2 1-litres we found was just about enough. Even in the sort of highest of summers when we did the coast to coast. So yeah, always stay hydrated as well. And that's pretty much it for the sides of the bag and the outsides. So we'll get on to what's called the brain of the bag. So again, like I said, it's not a feature of the bag itself, but this bit comes off if you want it to. So if you wanted to put your valuables in it or whatever, in fact, let's just do that. So let's put the bag to one side for a minute. So this bit of the bag, like I said, clips off. So if you had any valuables or like your phone or your you know, whatever, you could take this with you. So yeah, brilliant feature of the bag. And this come obviously with 2 pockets. So there's one at the back. So in the back of the pocket, leftover physio tape, get onto that shortly. But I have my sunglasses, again, easy access in the back. I did use them quite a bit, so yeah, they're really good sunglasses. Don't need to go, you know, they are what they are. The other thing that I had was a tiny towel. So this was like an ordnance survey towel, tiny little towel. Just basically, I don't really know what it was for. It was just like a multi-towel, so washing your face, brushing your teeth, sort of that type of towel. So it was like I said, it's not big, it's only little. Folded up into that, didn't weigh a lot. Pretty awesome, to be fair. Water filter. So I always had this in the top of the bag, because like I said, what we was doing is that when we did, you know, come to tarns and rivers and lakes, I didn't want to always take my bag off because they are heavy, and when you finally get them comfortable, you don't want to be taking them off every time you want to fill your water. So I kept them in what obviously this part of the bag called the brain. kept it in the brain so that then if we got to a lake or a tarn or whatever, Matty could take the water filter out and we could both use it in our waters. Didn't need to take the pack off. Brilliant. Just a little feature on the water. You can get any water filter. I'm not going to lie, this is quite an expensive one, but any water filter does the same job. The reason that we wanted this one was it had great reviews online. And yeah, we use this a hell of a lot. It's tried and tested. You know, sometimes if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So we had like a pre-filter in one end, and then open it up and you just literally pump it out. And obviously when that's in the water, pumps it out. Don't truly understand the technology that's in it, but yeah, there you go. MSR water filter, brilliant bit of kit, and we used it almost every single day. So yeah, get a good water filter, look after it, and it'll look after you. So that was also in the brain. What else is in here? GoPro 3-in-1. Do you know what? I wouldn't have brought this if I was to do it again. So like everything on the Coast to Coast, you have ambitions of making an incredible sort of video, and you start with like, I'm going to film this, I'm going to film that. The reality is it very quickly turns into a walk first and, you know, a bit of a video second, if I'm being truthful. And that's not like me, because I'm always content first. But yeah, I thought, you know, with this, it's got a tripod on the bottom, it's got multitude, it's like a selfie stick, it's got a ball tripod head, and it's quite heavy. So do you know what, I thought I was going to use it a lot, and I hand on heart don't think I used it once. So yeah, do you know what, wouldn't take that again if I'm being truthful. Just a GoPro's enough. Even for me who love my content, at one point I even considered bringing my big Sony camera. Yeah, not really worth it. GoPro 3-in-1, wouldn't bring that. And that's it for the inside of the brain. So there's nothing else sort of, well, on the inside, on the outside of the brain. That was pretty much it. So we'll turn it over. One of the best things about this is, like I said, there's an inside sort of mesh, open mesh, so it was breathable. And I found that if you padded the brain as well, because it naturally sat higher up on your back, you could use this as a bit of a headrest as well at times. So yeah, I padded this obviously and the back bit as well, and sometimes had that towel just at the back. But like I said, you'll find whatever works for you. In this zipper bit, I had everything in terms of toiletries, cosmetics, you name it. And I just want to go through this bag in a little bit more detail and explain everything, why I took it, what worked, what didn't work, and yeah, just go through this really. But also that is pretty much it for, hang on, there's something missing up here. Oh, that's meant to be in there. And that's it for the brain. So that's what I carried inside the brain, and then we'll just go through this bag now. So whilst it's out, the first one was sun cream. Yeah, even if you're doing it in sort of, you know, whatever the weather, just look at the weather before you do it. We knew that we were going to have a lot of sunshine. We did it in June. And yeah, that was an absolute godsend because we used it every single day. And then when we got to Haweswater, some of our guys left us some extra sun cream. Rather than taking the big bottle though, we just took the tops off, refilled it. Yeah, use your sun cream because you don't want to get skin cancer. So sun cream was an absolute must. So you might be thinking, why in a sandwich bag? Sandwich bags, believe it or not, are actually waterproof. So we use a lot of these sandwich bags. You know, they're 80, 90p for, I don't know, 20 or 30 bags. And these were brilliant. You'll probably see when I open the bag later on that we use these quite a lot for different things. But yeah, everything in one place, super lightweight and waterproof. So let's go through our situation here. Compedes, don't really know what, well, don't really need to say too much about them, but we had compedes. If you felt a hot spot in terms of rubbing, you'd obviously put a compede on, stop the rubbing. Bit of a godsend, to be honest. Would never ever do a walk like this without some form of compede. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Life Adventure all-purpose soap. Honestly, we didn't use this as much as I thought I was going to, but when we did use it, it was amazing. So we use this to clean our pots, our pans, ourselves. It's biodegradable, it's environmentally friendly, so when you're in streams and rivers, you can use this to clean your clothes, to clean your socks, to clean, you know, yourself, your hair. It literally is incredible stuff, and it's not that expensive. Be careful not to buy the big one like Matty did. This is only 100ml. Like I said, I think Matty bought like a 250, which was bigger. Conscious of weight, but that is a godsend because, like you said, you can clean pretty much everything, yourself, your pots, everything, in rivers, and it won't do any damage to the environment, and it's biodegradable. So yeah, that was amazing. although we didn't use it that often. Mirror, again, Life Adventure, tiny little mirror. It's a tiny little thing, but yeah, I mean, there's not much more you can say about a mirror. To be honest, I probably wouldn't take that. It doesn't weigh much, you know what I mean? But every gram counts when you're doing a walk like this. It really does. But yeah, I probably wouldn't take this again, because if you're doing a solo hike, I'd say that was quite important, because the reason we took it was for checking for ticks. So like in those sort of really hard to find areas, just making sure. But again, we'll talk on why we didn't actually get any ticks, but we'll talk about why we feel that we didn't later on. But because we had Matty and each other, it was kind of like, do you know what, we kind of know. But yeah, probably wouldn't take that again if I'm being truthful. Deodorant, self-explanatory, just a small roll on. Again, factoring in the weight. We did actually start with the spray on and then actually ran out, because it's not the most hygienic thing in the world, if I'm being truthful. At this point, like I said, you can do the coast to coast in hotels and B&Bs and everything if you want to. That's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. We decided to wow camp, hence why we've got all these toiletries. So yeah, we did run out of deodorant, but like I said, we got a roll on from Boots at Richmond, so we stocked up halfway through. Physio tape, self-explanatory. In fact, it might not be. So physio tape was pretty much replacing Compeed. This was a godsend. We used it to strap up muscles, to prevent injuries. We used it for blisters on our hands. We used it for blisters on our feet. I think at one point I wrapped my whole ankle in it and my toes, because my toes were rubbing together. Physio tape, absolutely incredible. Bit of a tip as well, if you really want to and you don't want to sort of take it in your bag, you can unwrap all of this and wrap it around your hiking poles, so that when you're walking, you're not actually carrying it. And as you can peel it off, so what we was doing was peeling it off and then cutting it with the knife. And yeah, definitely would not go without this. We actually went through 2 rolls each. One roll to about pretty much about halfway, and then when my good friend Matt met us, he kindly provided us with another roll, and then that was what's left of a second roll. So probably 1.5, but yeah, would not do a walk without physio tape. Vaseline. Through recommendations of other people and forums and everything to stop chafing. Hand on heart, never once chafed, me or Matty. Never used it, to be truthful. In terms of recommending it for you or for not, you'd probably have to understand, yourself. Do you normally chafe if you go on high, long distance walks? It's a call for you. Personally, I don't know if I'd take it again, because they're quite, it's quite heavy. I mean, it's not heavy, but you know what I mean. It's not, yeah, you know what I mean. Vaseline. Tooth and toothpaste. Don't need to, go into too much detail, but self-explanatory. Sudocrem. A bit like the Vaseline, to be honest. Just took it just in case. Open wounds, keeping clean, hygiene, all that. Hand gel, again, didn't use it as much as I thought I was going to do, to be honest. Yeah, just obviously just coming out of COVID, everything else, hand gel, just, yeah, didn't really use it. So again, up to you if you want to take it, but I didn't really use it. Imodiums, anti-diarrhea tablets, didn't use them, full pack still, but self-explanatory. You don't want to be caught short when you're on the coast to coast. You could be halfway through, especially when you're filtering water. Don't want diarrhea, so they were more of a precaution. We did have, believe it or not, I've got a random Compeed there. Yeah, we did have painkillers and a full pack, and topped up halfway through at Richmond. As you can see, I've none left. And then finally, just empty bag now. Finally, 2 items. So we bought these as 2 big tubs, but obviously conscious of weight, I got them tiny little tubs and then filled them up. So this white powder was like a really nice smelling sort of anti-sweat, moisture wicking sort of powder, if you like. So what we basically, in terms of a foot care routine, what we did is we'd finish the hike, we'd get the tent up, get into the tent, and then we would both, because obviously I got enough, we'd both use this to sprinkle over our feet, rub it in, and it'd just take away all the sweat, which causes blisters and sort of bacteria and fungi, and obviously it helped with smell as well. Yeah, this was amazing, to be honest. Used it as soon as we got into the tent at night, just to air the feet out. And then finally, this stuff is, do you know what, I couldn't actually tell you what it is, but I'll put it on the screen for you. My wife actually bought me this from the Body Shop, and it's just like a moisturising cream. And what we'd do just before we'd get into bed, so once that had obviously dried your feet out and everything, just before bed, we'd like smother our feet in, like so there's only half a bit left, it's obviously been led down, but there's only half left. We'd smother our feet in this just before bed and then get into bed. Lots of people say when you get into bed sort of wear bedtime socks, but we didn't do any of that. We just decided to put that on and sleep with no socks on. I would say it worked, if I'm honest. Matty, I don't think got any blisters at all, which is testament to the fact that both our foot care routine was fine. My downside, I feel, with blisters was halfway through the week I bought insoles, which obviously I was earlier on in the video. And basically, yeah, that caused me a whole host of problems, which I don't need to go into. But apart from the insoles, I was doing all right. But as I said, if you've seen the video, the soles of my feet were so sore that I needed to try something, but it didn't really work, to be honest. So moving on to the main contents of the bag. Obviously, I took the brain off. Again, another great feature is just this pull strap, amazing, just comes straight off. And then yeah, now we're getting into the confines of the bag. So I took a full-size towel. This is quite heavy, if I'm being truthful. It's an OS one again, just because, I don't know, I quite like the OS. I like the orange, it kind of goes in the pack. But yeah, this was a full-size towel that unwraps, and I promise you it's full-size. I took this for while swimming, for when we were sort of washing, drying, everything like that for myself. I used it a few times, so I probably couldn't say that it wasn't worth it, but yeah, it's quite a heavy one. But yeah, if you can get like a microfiber, ultra lightweight towel or whatever, then yeah, definitely recommend that. And then I had these dry sacks, so these were just like, I think I got these off Amazon, to be fair. So these dry sacks I got in different sizes, and yeah, basically just rolled up, strapped them at the top, amazing little things. And then in this one, the least important, I had all of my diabetes stuff. So obviously I did the walk, obviously I've got type 1. One of the most important things was diabetes. Now, I don't need to go into loads of detail in this, but I had like, well, it's an empty one, but I had insulin, I had my insulin sort of pump. I had lots of alcohol wipes just for cleaning myself with, for pads. I had different types of insulin as spares. All my diabetes kit. It was, yeah, really important. Obviously, you know, someone who lives with diabetes, you're going to have to look after yourself. And then basically all that went in that pouch. Job done. What's next? Electrics. Let's talk. Let's pop that on there. Electrics. So let's talk electrics. So again, inside this waterproof pouch, I have another tiny weeny dry sack, and in here I kept everything that was needed for my electrics. So I had a lead for charging stuff with, I had a tiny little head torch, that's from Wolf, great little head torch. Didn't use it, if I'm being, once, tell a lie, used it once. But yeah, I mean, it didn't weigh a lot, but like I said, every gram matters, but it is super lightweight. Little head torch. GoPro light for doing updates at night. Didn't use it. Wouldn't bring it again, because in hindsight I probably could use my phone, or I could use the head torch, so probably wouldn't use that again. GoPro charger, just, you know, 2 batteries, dual purpose at once. Spare GoPro battery. Spare GoPro battery. And then, because I used the media mod for the GoPro, just the door. And that was pretty much it. There you go. That was it for technology. In terms of charging everything, so as you, well, if you're watching this and you're not an angler, this is the Ridge Monkey Power Pack. This is heavy. Make no bones about it, this is heavy. But now you might be telling yourself, why do you need something so big and so heavy? Now, obviously there's a lot of tech, and we were filming this whole thing. We were using the phone as our GPS, so we needed that to be charged. We needed the GoPro and the 2 batteries to be charged, head torches, everything else. But more importantly for me, my insulin pump is powered via a Bluetooth system. So there is no way from a health point of view I could have afforded for my pump to run out of battery or a power bank. So I had to sacrifice, because unfortunately doing this walk with type 1 diabetes, I had to make sure that my health came first, and making sure that my pump was fully charged literally every single night was essential. So yeah, big power bank. And then what I did in terms of power is, when I got to the hotels, to restaurants, to pubs, to wherever, I'd charge this unit, so then that could power everything else. And honestly, I think I charged this once when I got to work at Haweswater, and it was fine for the, I mean, I probably would have done with the whole 2 weeks, to be honest, but it charged everything pretty much every night. The GoPro batteries, I'd kind of charge, because I had 3 batteries, one in that now, and the 2 spares, I'd do 1 per day, and then at the end of the 3rd day, I'd charge the 2 together and that one overnight. But yeah, the situation was great. We never ran out of power. The only downside is that is heavy. So if you're not too reliant on electricity or power, then definitely take a smaller power bank, because they are heavy. I don't know exactly how heavy they are. Does it say on the back? No, it doesn't, but I'll put the weight of this unit on its own on the screen. That is very heavy. So that was our electric situation. Just get rid of all that. Hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. What's next? Let's go through. Ooh. So another dry sack. That's just fallen out. That was in the top, I assure you. That would have been like that and folded down. There you go, I've just done it for you. So this was the food and the cooking situation. Now, yeah, this you can't really change because you need to eat, you need to feed yourself. We took, what's this one? This is a 260 grams, I think. It's the medium one anyway. It's not small, but it's not the large one. So this was a jet boil gas. We actually took 2 of these. So I took one and Matty also carried one. Honestly, there was 2 of us using one system. So we both used this cooking kit and we used not even a full gas. So just be conscious and mindful that, you know, we went through 2 people, 7, 8 meals combined and brews on less than a gas. So, you know, only you can figure out how much gas that you need. In fact, let's open this one first. So in here, let's move that a second. In here we had 2 porridges, as you can probably see. These were from Tent Meals, Blueberry Burst Breakfast. I'll just get one out. He says. So we had these. So these were, well, I had these. Matty made his own, which was absolutely fine. But I had these Tent Meals, Blueberry Burst. They're meant to be 1 for 1 meal, but I found that half was enough, and I only had 2. So yeah, there was 2 left. And in this bag as well, I also had, I've only got 2 left, Nescafe all-in-one coffees. Are they the best coffee in the world? Absolutely not. But we love coffee, me and Matty. We got proper coffees and cappuccinos when we got into the hamlets and villages. But in terms of just the trip, these were absolutely fine. So yeah, it is what it is. You know, you can't be a bit of a coffee snob when you're doing coast to coast. We probably set off with absolutely loads of them. That was a lot heavier than what it is now. And then yeah, that just stayed in there. So yeah, absolutely fine. You know, we lived off coffee, to be fair. We had one every morning, pretty much one every evening. And Matt had his own coffee as well, but we love coffee. So how did you make a coffee? In this pouch we have our cup kit, and that's now empty. Torx Titanium Spork, super lightweight. I don't know what it weighs, but it literally weighs nothing. Use that for everything, making brews, for eating, for cutting with, and because it's a spork, if we ever needed to have an actual cut up meal, I use my knife, but we didn't really have that. We had packet meals, which I'll get onto later. But yeah, super lightweight. Get yourself a spork. That was in there. The cook kit. This isn't the lightest system in the world. I do have a lighter system, believe it or not, but because this was, everything was inside this, it just worked for me and Matty both, because we actually shared the cooking situation in terms of the facility. So yeah, this did for both me and Matty. This is the Jet Boil Mini More, I think it is. Again, not a cheap system, but it's absolutely brilliant. It's not a product review, but you have like a bowl there, which, you know, we use for porridge, we use for measuring out water, whatever you needed. That was brilliant. In the top, you have a lid for straining as well, and then we also had the stand built in, which we did use every night pretty much. So you put your gas on it, keeps it more sturdy. Yeah, absolutely brilliant system. And then also you can put the lid on top of that, so you can actually keep everything warm as a meal. But yeah, just as a system, it was just brilliant. And then inside the pot itself, so we both had, and I treated Matty to his birthday to one of these. This is a Sea to Summit X mug, I think it's called. Brilliant bit of kit. used it for our brews all the time. We even used it for porridge at one point. Yeah, super lightweight, compact, perfect mug, and it fit inside there, so definitely recommend that. This was just a fail-safe. This is a piezo igniter, just in case for whatever reason the stove one didn't work. So yeah, that's a piezo igniter. And then inside here you have the stove itself. So this all comes as part of the jet boil kit, and then that just screws onto the gas on the top, and then the jet boil sits on top of that. But yeah, don't need to go into that. And then finally, just to stop everything rattling around, we had one sponge that we cut up into small squares, put in the bottom, and it stopped that when we were walking, which was an absolute godsend. And then we just had a lighter as a bit of a spare, because you never know, so lighter as well. And that all encapsulated into the jet boil. So sometimes we'd eat out of the jet boil if we could, with the fork, with the pot. And like I said, because it was me and Matty, we often share or cook together. Brilliant system. So yeah, that was a cooking situation. What I'm going to do now is give my voice a bit of a break, get rid of all this, and then carry on in the rest of the bag. Right, so final few things. I haven't actually got much left, but in terms of the food situation, so I've just gone through the cook kit. In terms of the food, these I carried, what did I carry? I think 5, potentially 6. These are just the Wayfarer food. You can get these from any sort of camping, hiking shops. 300 grams each. These were incredibly heavy when you put 5 or 6 together. You know, you're talking a kilo, kilo and a half in just food. So we did our best, especially in the first couple of days, to sort of, you know, get through these as much as we could. In terms of meal choice, you can use whatever you want. I had a couple of meatballs and pasta. I had an all-day breakfast. I had a hot pot one. Not that it matters, but yeah, we carried them. And the best thing about these is that you didn't need water with these ones. So some packet meals, like the dehydrated ones, you need water with. These ones, you literally tear the top, pour them into a pan, into the jet boil, warm it through, eat it. And yeah, because obviously water was hard to come by pretty much in some days, it was great that when we got to in an evening, we could actually use the water for brews. They were in a dry bag, but I don't know where the dry bag is. Like I said, it's a bit all over the place. But yeah, that's what we did in terms of food. Your food, like I said, you can do what you want. You can eat at hamlets, you can eat at villages. It's not as urban as I thought it was going to be. But you can, like I said, you can sort of stock up, you can feed yourself when you get to these places. Honestly, boxes were a godsend. They're absolutely everywhere. You know, just a couple of quid, take lots of cash with you. That's one thing actually that was in the brain that I have since took out, is cash. I think I took £200, £250, paid for £5 here and there for camping, for camping spots. And yeah, we pretty much, like I said, when we got to pubs and everything, we'd pay for a meal or whatever. But as and when, we pretty much just had them for the evening meal. Didn't really eat much else. The other thing that was in the porridge pot was where the coffees were protein bars, so high protein bars. I think I carried 6 or 7 of those. Just snack through them through the day when, you know, we sort of really needed it to push through those last miles. Sometimes we had breakfast. We had full Englishes at fossils and what have you. But sometimes we also didn't. We didn't eat at all in terms of breakfast or lunch, and we just have something in the evening. But yeah, you do go through places if you want to. Take lots of cash. Most places accept cash, so we took cash. I took £250, come back with a bit, so nothing to shout about. I think 40, 60 quid, something like that. And yeah, it was, like I said, you can get drinks from places. Just be careful, obviously, when you're planning your course, because everybody's is different, that when you roll up into these places, Richmond, Reeth, can't think, Gunnerside, make sure that by the time you get there, that the places are still going to be open. Pubs obviously open late, but you don't always get your cafes and whatnot that stay open late. Lots of places, like I think Lordstone's where we went, closed at 4 o'clock. And obviously if you're arriving in past 4 o'clock, you're not going to be able to fill your water up or eat. You know, just factor that in terms of do a lot of planning, because we did do a lot. We did 3 years of planning for this trip. And like I said, you know, if you've not seen the video, watch the video first. But we did all right for food. So, last couple of items in the bag. Sleep system. You can get far lighter, but also far more expensive sleep systems than this one. This is the Trekology UL80. I think this cost about 30 quid off Amazon. Do you know what? It was brilliant. Wasn't, like I said, it wasn't the lightest thing in the world, if I'm being honest. But that's it. Like I said, it was about, I think it's about 900 grams, something like that. But this was, honestly, this was amazing. For the price, that is, you know, everything, you know, you can get bigger, better, more expensive. But we tried to do this on, you know, our primary hobby is obviously fishing. We have a lot of expensive fishing kit. Some of it is not transferable in terms of, you know, coming on the course. But yeah, it was a balance between not spending silly money on hiking kit. That was brilliant. Yeah, not really much more I can say about that, to be honest. Pillow. So this was a matching pillow. This is a Sea to Summit one, but it's absolutely tiny, as you can tell. Yeah, it wasn't the best pillow in the world. We also found that if you pump it up really so you can't get any more air in, it was just really hard on your neck. Pillow's a personal preference. It did a job. Yeah, it weren't great. And inside the pillow I just kept 2 tiny earplugs just in case it rained really, really bad. Sometimes, you know, I don't mind listening to rain, but 2 tiny earplugs, mainly for Matty really. But no, joking aside, just in case it rained really heavy and I couldn't get to sleep, but never used them. Wouldn't take, don't know, would I take them again? Difficult, because you never know the weather. But that was a pillow. And then the best thing, if you take nothing from this video at all in terms of tips, get yourself one of these. This is the Flex Tail Tiny Pump. In terms of the bag, that's it for the bag. There's nothing else left in there. But this comes with different attachments, different, you know, the bells and the whistles. It does come with that. But in terms of what we needed, so you have this tiny adapter, which was the perfect fit for our bed and the pillow. And this was a multitude. So on here we also had a little clip. So, ooh, dropping it. So on there we hung it up in the tent because it acts as a light. There you go. 3 settings on a light. Don't know how well you can see that. Ooh. So you've got like a dim, a brighter, and then a bright setting. So yeah, multitude. To be honest, I think why we didn't use the head torch was because of this as well. But more importantly, the main feature of this is, if I press that, look at that. How good is that? So that is a tiny weeny pump, and what we used that for was both beds, the pillows, every single night, and we charged it once. And the only reason we charged it once is because we had electricity to hand. It would have probably gone for a lot further, and yeah, super lightweight. But if you take nothing else from this video, invest in this. I think they're about £30, so not the cheapest of things, but I assure you, after a long day's hiking, the last thing you want to be doing is blowing up a bed, 2 beds, every single day, or evening, sorry. So yeah, get yourself one of them. We used it every single night. Absolute godsend. Last, but no, it's not even last. Towards the bottom of the bag is the OEX Fathom 400. Again, about 1.2 kilo. You can get sleeping bags that are far more sort of greater and lighter than this. You know, you can go into like 300-400 grams of sleeping bags, but you're talking serious kit or serious money for that. This wasn't that expensive. Like I said, our primary hobby is carping, so we spend a lot of money on fishing kit. We didn't need something over and beyond. We were doing it in summer, so we didn't need a bag that went down to -10, -20. We didn't need that. It was just a light. So this obviously does go to -8, so it says. Honestly, I wouldn't trust myself in -8 using this bag, but certainly into the lower Celsius, 1, 2, 3 degrees. It'd do. There was two or three nights where we were quite warm. As you can tell, it's not the smallest pack in the world, but it does compress pretty well. You could probably get it a bit more if you wanted to, but it's a mummy bag. Like I said, I think it was about 50-60 quid. We both had matching sleeping bags because, like I said, for the price and the weight, in fact, it does tell you the weight on it. 1,125, so 1.1 kilo. Yeah, brilliant. Compressed really small, and then we just pop these in the bottom of the bags, piled everything on top of it. That was our sleeping bag, or that was our sleeping arrangements. In terms of the tent, you're probably thinking, well, where the hell's a tent? Because we had a 2-man tent and we used it together. So Matty carried the tent kindly, so shout out Matty, thank you very much. The tent we had was a Lanshan 2 Pro. And again, you've probably, if you're doing ultra light hiking, you're well aware of the Lanchan. Has no poles to keep the weight down, so I think it's about 900 grams for the 2-man, and you basically use your 2 hiking poles at either end and use the tension off that. So honestly brilliant. I can't recommend that tent enough. Didn't rain, so I can't tell you its performance in terms of wet weather performance, but Matty kind of carried that because I carried the cut kit and the gas and things. So yeah, we shared the load to sort of make it even between us. So yeah, that was an incredible tent, to be fair. Like I said, can't comment on the waterproof. Excuse me. There was a little bit of condensation, but I think the tent itself is about 90 quid. So yeah, you can't really complain at that price. And then getting into the last bits of the bag, we'll really get into the bottom here. I'll get onto that in a second. So I had a medium cover for the outside of the bag. The Osprey Exos isn't actually a waterproof bag. Now I had a waterproof liner on the inside and I've got a waterproof on the outside. The reason I put these to the bottom is because throughout the week we realised that the weather wasn't going to turn. In case it did, I still had it, but I didn't need it to hand because it basically wasn't going to rain, and it didn't. This bag, so why is this empty? As I said at the very beginning of this video, it's been a week or two now since we finished the coast to coast, and had I have left my clothes in this bag, they would have stunk. So you're just going to have to trust me that this is the bag that I use for the clothes. I think it's a 5 litre, potentially 10 litre, fully lined dry sack, and I rolled up all my clothes and popped them in here. Clothes, completely personal to every individual. I took 3 tights, 3 shorts, 3 pairs of socks, 4 t-shirts, 3 t-shirts, 3 or 4 t-shirts, and 4 pairs of boxers. Didn't use them all, to be truthful with you. I'm not going to lie. Brother, So what I use, if you've seen the video, I used 2 t-shirts. So I used 2 black ones, pretty much identical, and I used a green Tracker moisture wicking t-shirt because, again, don't really use cotton if you can avoid it, because you just get really warm, sweaty, they don't dry very well. Any moisture wicking t-shirt, which is what we use, like a cool t-shirt. Tights and shorts, self-explanatory. Tights, again, mentally I don't know if this is true, but after about 3 or 4 days, so we started in tights just to stop ticks really. Lots of people were commenting as we were walking saying like, oh, you're not hot in tights, blah blah blah. Honestly, it wasn't too bad. Tights are so thin, so lightweight that they were just brilliant. And like I said, because we didn't get any ticks for 3 or 4 days, we certainly found that, you know, not having ticks was more of a mental thing. So when it came to changing our clothes, we kept tights on at all times. So yeah, like I said, in terms of what works for you, only I can't really advise on clothes, but as little as possible because clothes are quite heavy. But all our clothes went in this dry sack anyway, and like I said, I only went through 3 t-shirts, 2 pairs of socks, because we actually managed to wash a lot of our clothes as well when we got to our work on day 4, and then push through anyway. So yeah, that was a clothes situation. We didn't get any ticks, we didn't chafe. Rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but I'm going to put that down to the fact that we had tights. We wore them every single day, absolute godsend. And yeah, get some proper socks because you don't want to be doing it. But again, socks is different to everybody. Expensive socks don't mean the best socks. That was the clothes situation. Moving on to the bottom of the bag, and the very bottom of the bag, I have a Gore-Tex Pack Light rain jacket. Never used it once. Stayed at the bottom of the bag, rolled up, never ever used it, but it was a Berghaus Pack Light 2. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. And would I go again with a waterproof? Absolutely. If you've ever been fell walking before, you can be on the top of the Lake District and the weather changes like that. So always recommend waterproofs. Although we never use them, I would never ever go anywhere without them. And then finally in the bottom as well was a tiny first aid kit. So normally I don't advocate going on hikes, you know, without a first aid kit, and I take one a lot bigger. But yeah, for me, this comes in a kit, but what I actually decided to do before the trip was empty the entire kit out and basically make it for myself, make my own. So in there I've got like a little sun cream, I've got little bits of plasters, tiny bandage just in case, one long length of plaster, tick removals, and then just worst case a flint and steel, and that was pretty much it. It's not the best, like I said, the actual first aid kit that comes in this is actually pretty good. but like I said, I had to kind of tailor it because I couldn't afford the weight in terms of serious injury. Touch wood, you know, we never needed to use it. Like I said, we had a couple of blisters and stuff, but in terms of first aid, didn't need it. But that's right in the bottom. And then I think, oh, last thing, sorry, that was at the very bottom. Waterproof pants to go with the waterproof top. Again, didn't use them, didn't need them. Would have just chucked them over if I did. Would always recommend going. But that's pretty much it. And that concludes the bag. That is everything. Bag empty. So yeah, there you go. So that is my bag dump in terms of kit. The only thing I didn't mention was the drone. So we did take a drone and you know, get some really cinematic shots. It was an unnecessary weight, obviously. And sort of contrary to what I was saying earlier around content, one of the things that we did really want to do was capture some really nice footage. So yeah, we did take the drone as well, but that was literally it, and that is all we took. I'm lying to you, hold me in my stop. The only other thing that I did have that I've taken off subsequently was Crocs. Crocs were a godsend. We clipped them to the outside of the bag because they didn't fit on the inside of the bag pretty much, but Crocs were, honestly, I'm a massive advocate of Crocs anyway, but on the coast to coast, taking your boots off in an afternoon or an evening, airing your feet out, letting your feet breathe, stop that sweat building up inside your socks. And like I said, what you could do, and we did it multiple times, if you're going into a shop, if you're going into a pub, if you're going into somewhere to eat, sounds really disgusting, take your shoes and socks off, let them air out, let them breathe. And Crocs being obviously with holes in, I know they're not the most fashion statement thing in the world, but this is an adventure. This isn't a fashion contest, and we said that many a times. We went out for tea a few times and you know, playing pool in Crocs, because this is an adventure over 12, 13, 14 days, and you don't want to be worrying too much about what you look like, if I'm being truthful. So yeah, we used our Crocs a hell of a lot. We use them for wild swimming, we use them for walking around in the night. If you haven't got any and you're one of those that are completely anti-Crocs, get some, because I cannot tell you how brilliant they are for this situation for sure. And like you said, fashion, this is not a fashion contest. This is very much an adventure. Enjoy it and don't worry too much about what you look like. So that definitely is it this time. I definitely can't remember anything else that I took, and if it is, it was that minimal that I can't even remember that I took it. Matty's pack was pretty much the same apart from her clippers. Mental, I know. But yeah, that is pretty much everything we took on the coast to coast. What I would say at this point, if you did watch all this and you haven't watched the adventure, then I'll put a link up here. Watch the adventure first. But that was our bag dump. We, like I said, you know, what an adventure it was. Everything that I've used or recommended, obviously I've told you about in this video. In terms of tips, just be conscious around your pack weight. One thing that you'll never really factor in, no matter how much, is the relentlessness of getting up and going again and getting up and going again. I'm a firm believer that anyone can get up and do 15, 16 miles with 15 kilo on your back. And that sounds like a lot of weight, and it is, because like I said, I had heavy power packs, I had my diabetes kit as well. But that, unfortunately for me, and everyone's adventure is different, but for me, I couldn't do it without that stuff. So try and get your pack weight down as minimal as you possible. Really factor in, you know, do you really need this? Don't be taking luxuries. Crocs were my luxury, but as I sit here now with someone who completed the coast to coast, I would say they were definitely more than a luxury. They were a necessity. So like I said, everyone's adventure is different. In terms of just, you know, finalising this video, I guess, if you're considering doing the coast to coast and you're not sure, or you're unsure on whether you're fit enough to do it or whatever, do it. Just honestly, just do it. You don't have to do it with all this kit. You know, Wainwright himself didn't wow camp, so if you're the person that thinks I want to just do the adventure but don't want to wow camp, you absolutely can do that. Plan your itinerary. You know, you can go from village to village, to town to hamlet. There's B&Bs, there's pubs. You can stay every single night. Plan ahead. You can do it that way. You can pay companies now that will sort of transfer your kit from one side to the next, and you know, when you arrive at your pub or your destination at the end of each day, it'll be there waiting for you. Do it however you want to do it. We had a hotel stop halfway through. Didn't change the experience at all. Like I said, you do need a base level of fitness. That's what I would say. It's not an easy walk. It's not super difficult like Everest or something, but it's not an easy walk, I'm not going to lie, and it can be painful. But as an adventure, what an adventure. and it's something that, even though I'm still quite young, I promise that I'll never ever forget this for the rest of my life, and it's something I'll tell my grandkids about. And that's what it was all about. The weather, the people we met along the route, you know, foreign people. We had Americans, we met people from Holland, Germany, wherever. It was, honestly, it was an amazing experience. And to do it with Matty as well, your best friend, made it all the better. And if you're someone sat at home now going, should I do the coast to coast, should I not? I can't really do this, I can't really do that. Honestly, just get out and do it, because I promise you now, it'll be one of the best things that you ever do. Unfortunately, not everyone does make it, so just factor that in terms of, like you said, whether it's the pack, whether it's the weight. Do a few practice runs first, you know, give yourself a year, 2 years where you do 2 or 3 days maybe, where you just feel what works for you as a rucksack. Just do everything properly, don't cut corners. I'm not saying go out and splash loads of money on stuff, but don't cut corners, whether it's your planning, whether it's your prep, whether it's, oh, I don't need a waterproof jacket because the weather says it's not going to rain. Do you know what I mean? Little things in terms of cutting corners, don't do it, because it will catch up on you. That is an absolute promise. As someone who can quite confidently now say that I have completed the coast to coast, certain things did trip me up. You know, taking painkillers, for example, I took too many on some days, couldn't feel blisters, and as a result ended up getting a blister because I couldn't feel hot spots. Just little things. So yeah, just don't cut corners. But yeah, I'm rambling on now, so I'm going to finish this video here. Firstly, I hope you really enjoyed the adventure itself as much as me and Matty enjoyed doing it. It was never going to be the full sort of production that we're normally used to on this channel, but obviously I hope this video as well has helped you understand what you need to take, what you don't need to take, how you want to do it, plan it, whatever. But yeah, a couple of key points just to wrap the whole video up is, have a base level of fitness. You don't need to be super fit, but it isn't an easy walk. I'm not going to sit here and say that it is a very easy walk, because it isn't. So a base level of fitness and you'll be absolutely fine, especially if you're going to do it with hotels. Having a warm shower and stuff at the end of the night is a massive add of your day. You don't need to set up your camp, have them not a great night's sleep and then go again and again. But repetition was a big one for us. Pack weight, if you are going to do pack weight, just consider the weight. Don't consider luxuries, because take as bare minimal as possible. It makes a big difference, believe me. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of advice. Just enjoy it. Honestly, just enjoy it. My biggest advice at the end of all of the trip is, don't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't come home and tell your loved ones and your children and you did it in 8 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever, because you don't get any extra medals for that. And you know what you will enjoy more, and I said it in the video as well, is taking 5 minutes when you get to the top of a fell and turning back around and looking behind you, enjoying the moment exactly where you are, taking it in. Don't have your head down, just eating up the miles. You don't need to. You really don't need to. As important and as strong as you are to keep going forwards, I can't re-emphasise the importance of sometimes just taking 5 and looking back, because I don't know if you can see that behind me, but just look at that. And if you keep your head down and keep marching forward, you'll miss views like that. Enjoy it, because we did. We had the weather, granted, but you know, we had some amazing experiences. And yeah, just thanks to everyone who was part of our coast to coast route. So that's it. I'm going to leave this video here. Like I said, I hope this video helped in terms of if you're planning a coast to coast route yourself. I hope that the main video itself inspired you to get out. So yeah, there you go. That was our bag dump. And we hope to see you on the bank sometime, because like I said, normally we are used to, you know, Northern Carp Diaries being a carp fishing channel, so we're not going to probably do any more hiking videos unless it's a serious adventure. But this was our coast to coast, this was our kit list, and then we'll see you next time.